This is the last time you're going to hear this engine run. Hey, you cut me off, Mrs. Wizard.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Not the last time you're going to hear it run forever. It's the last time you're going to hear this engine run with this exhaust on this car. It's too quiet. It sounds like a vacuum cleaner, and it's not acceptable to me. So we're going to take these side seals off today and do a whole bunch of other little things and some of the plans for this car and some of the things I've already done. So let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you who haven't been following along, this is my, well, it's not brand new, but it's my new 94 Dodge Viper RT10 that I got for my birthday, and it has a salvage title. If you haven't watched the previous video on this one, there's a link in the description. You can go check it out and get all the details. We're going to go over some of the things I've already done, some of the things I'm going to do, and we're actually going to actively do something today. Take these side seals off the exhaust and take a look inside. One of the things I've already done is I had a crappy Pioneer stereo, an old one that was barely running, and some other speakers that were blown. I mean, all 4 speakers were blown out really bad. They're already in the trash, or I would show them to you. And some people have commented, you could send those off and have them new foam surrounds put on and cost twice as much as just replacing them with some kickers. No thank you. You can see through the little grill right there, you can see the kicker emblem. I have 6.5-inch kicker DS speakers in the center. And in the doors, I also have some 5 1/4 kicker DS's. And there we have a Blancpain stereo. It has Bluetooth. It's nothing fancy. I didn't want anything that was super expensive that someone could just steal out of here while it was parked. But it has Bluetooth, and I don't care what the power output is because it's not even needed, the power output. All the speakers in a Dodge Viper are ran off of their own amplifiers. Let's take a look at where they're at. You guys hear it? It's like an elephant walking on my roof.
It almost is.
Maybe this building's haunted.
You've had a hearse in here before.
It could be. Actually, it's Junior Mint. You guys remember Junior Mint? He no longer works here as an employee, but I still hire him for odd jobs, building maintenance and things of that nature, mowing, and keeps him paid and everything. He just got burnt out on the cars. That's all it was. He got tired of cars. Man, he's really shaking the roof up there. Anyways, back to the car. I have my soft top in here, but you can see over here in the corner, that is the center speakers, and I have RCA jacks pre-wired from the factory that way. I didn't add those. Those came from Dodge that way. And there's an identical amp on the passenger side as well. In case you're wondering what that little black box is with some wiring coming off of it, that is actually a timer relay for the fuel pump. Most trunks are pretty useless. They are just used for storage, but this one they actually have things back there because there's not much room else to put anything anywhere else. The engine bay is full of a giant 8-liter V10. Then you got the interior, which is 2 people sitting there, and then you got a trunk, which isn't much of a trunk. But anyways, that relay you just saw, the black box, it's very common on these Gen 1 Vipers where the one-way check valve inside the fuel pump fails. So when you first start the car, it'll just crank forever because it hasn't built up pressure. So you have to turn the key on, turn the key off, on, off, on. The fix for that, the proper fix, is to pull the tank out, and it's a huge ordeal. The fuel pump works perfectly fine. It runs perfectly fine. It just loses its fuel volume back into the tank when it sets for a while. Somebody actually fixed that years ago with a timed relay box. It runs the pump for 10 seconds and then shuts off and reverts back to normal operation. Thanks, Junior Mint. Anyways, so I turn the key on and let it run for about 10 seconds, 5 seconds usually. It primes the system, starts right up every time. That saves from having to pull the whole tank out. I'll worry about that if the fuel pump ever dies, but it could be another 5 or 10 years before that happens. So.
And you may not have the car then, dear.
Possibly. I don't know. It's a really cool car. So back to the interior. So now I have nice speakers with the stock output. I think it's 40 watts per channel from the amps that are in the back. The Blancpain stereo with Bluetooth. Now I can run my phone off of it. I can charge my phone off of that radio. It solves the whole... Goodness, Junior Mint. What's he doing? Throwing rocks up there? Anyways. Now I have a way to charge my phone. I can listen to the tunes that I want to stream, and all that is solved. The rest of the interior I don't really have to do anything with. It's actually in very good shape. Let's go ahead and jump under the hood. Some of you caught in the previous video of this car that it did not have the front emblem. Now it does have the correct red. I don't know what that one's called. There's 3 different emblems. Sneaky Pete, I think, is what that one is called. It cost me $200 for that emblem. But where else are you going to find one? I plunked down the cash. I want it to look right. Let's go ahead and get the hood open. There's not a whole lot I need to do under here. I really got a good buy as far as the engine's concerned. The head gaskets are done. It runs perfect. It doesn't have any major leaks or anything going on except for the valve cover gaskets. And as you can see, the paint is peeling on the valve covers, which is very common on the Gen 1 Vipers. The intake is fine. I'm just going to clean it up and spruce up the paint and make it look nice. I will be pulling the valve covers and putting some, we have actually some cans of Ferrari wrinkle paint that's made for Ferrari valve covers and things. I'll just use that. Why not? Also, we noticed this weekend we were cruising around and the AC, when the engine got nice and hot, the AC would not cool very well, and I found out why. There's literally a hole through the air intake box where it should be pulling in fresh air through this hole, which is actually right here in the hood. It's actually pulling in hot air fresh off the exhaust manifolds straight into the box. That's not very good for nice cold AC, so I will be patching that up.
Looks like somebody tried to do that with the MacGyver method with duct tape.
I've seen that before when someone does a head gasket job, pulls the heads off, they hit the box and it breaks. It can happen. I'm not sure if that's what happened here, but very likely it was. I'm just going to get a square piece of black plastic and put epoxy on and a couple of rivets, and that will solve that and take care of hot air getting into the air box there. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot I need to do in the engine bay. So let's go ahead and remove these rocker panels. I call them sills, whatever you want to call them. And then we'll see what it looks like underneath the exhaust on a Dodge Viper. There's a ton of bolts underneath on the bottom of the car. They're like little tiny, like this. Little small bolts, 5/16 bolts. I've got all those off on this side and also on the other side. Then you open the door, and I'll show you when we do the other side what you have to do to get to those bolts. I have 2 more here, and we're going to go ahead and pull this rocker panel off. If you have one of these, you're going to take these off. Be careful, don't scratch up the paint or drop them or dent the little fake looking exhaust piece there. But on the inside, there's thick insulation because there's literally right where my hand's wiggling, there's a catalytic converter and a muffler where the other hand is wiggling. Let's get this thing out of the way. So like I mentioned, I have all the bottom bolts off. They're just a row of 8mm or 5/16 bolts along the bottom of this whole thing. You could do it on the ground if you want. You can just reach under there and take them off. They're not hard. But then you got to open the door. And there's those little plastic dome pieces there. You can see those have to be popped off. So this is some of the surprises you run into when you buy a car and you don't know what they've done on the inside. Nothing bad was done here, but I don't have 5/16 bolts here. I have Phillips screws on the top, but the bottom was 5/16 bolts. It's really weird, but I'll probably go back with the proper bolts. Okay, again, we have 2 more bolts, and I'll take this rocker off. They're actually not hard to take off at all. They're very simple. You just have to take your time and be careful that you don't slip and run across your paint or tear it up. You don't want to do anything like that. So here we have the stock exhaust, and I believe when the customer bought this car, he mentioned that it had some aftermarket exhaust on it. It was very loud, obnoxiously loud, like straight pipes. He actually paid to have stock exhaust put back on. I don't know if this is brand new or used, but it is the stock setup. This bullet-shaped thing right here is actually the catalytic converter, and it actually gets very hot. Just this weekend, we took it to a car show, a get-together, and me and Mrs. Wizard noticed that our feet were actually getting very warm. We're like, is that road heat, or what is that? And no, it's this. it gets so hot. You can see that it has heat shield behind it, this stuff here, but a catalytic converter gets like 12 or 1500 degrees. It gets extremely hot. So people have said high flow cats or some different things like that might decrease the temperature. I might look into that. But one thing I'm definitely going to do is remove the stock muffler and install one from Jones Mufflers, which is called a flow pack. Let me go grab the muffler and show you. I've seen a few videos where on the Gen 2 Vipers someone put Flowmasters on it, and they sound really, really good. The V10 engine doesn't sound the best as it is, and then you have it divided 5 cylinders on each side, and when you're only standing on this side of the car, you're only hearing 5 cylinders, and it sounds kind of weird. But I found some people that put Flowmasters on their Gen 2, and it sounded amazing. Unfortunately, Flowmaster does not make a cylinder-shaped muffler, but yet it's chambered inside like a Flowmaster 40. Anything that's chambered by Flowmaster is a big oval that will not fit in here. But Jones Performance actually makes what's called a flow pack. It's like a Super 10 Flowmaster, but it's round. So I can remove this stock muffler and put this right in place of it. So that's going to be the next thing I do with the exhaust on here, is to get some better sound and kind of a Flowmastery style sound instead of just the vacuum cleaner. It sounds so quiet. It's like a Toyota Camry. You look at the car and you're like, man, this thing's going to sound amazing, and you start it up and it goes, and you're like, it just doesn't jive. So it's going to sound much, much better with this. We'll do a video installing these and showing what it sounds like when it's done. But right now I'm working through other things. Let me show you the last couple of things we're doing before the video is done. In the last video we did an inspection. We saw that this rear driver's side hub bearing is bad. It had a little bit of play when we jiggled the wheel. That kind of consistent with the accident this thing had years ago. It got hit back here or something, and very likely they never did mess with the hub. Fortunately, this hub is the same that Dodge uses for the Dodge Rams, the front I think, and a Dodge Dakota. Just like this one I ordered for a Dodge Dakota. Look at that, guys. And it's the identical 4 bolts in the back as well. I don't have to worry about ABS speed sensors because, as we know, this car has 0 ABS, 0 traction control, 0 stability control. So I don't even have to worry about that. While we're back here, I actually am going to do a small brake upgrade. I'm not going to change all the brakes out. I'm never going to push this car that hard. It's a nice car. Me and Mrs. Wizard enjoy driving it and cruising in it, and sometimes I'll do some spirited driving and really give it... No muffler Newton. Thanks, guys. I like to drive it and give it the beans and enjoy the power it has, but I'm not going to track it. I'm not going to try to go max G's or anything crazy like that. But I would like to upgrade what I've heard on the rear caliper called Tom's 40mm upgrade. Unfortunately, I scoured the internet, and the last time this was done was 6 years ago. No one's doing that anymore that I can see. And I actually went into a Viper forum and asked around. There's really nobody responding. One dude said, hey, maybe this guy will help you, but I checked out that guy's profile. It seems like he's moved past Vipers years ago. If any of you out there know of anyone that can do this or has a set of the Tom's upgraded calipers, I'd be happy to buy them. Let me know in the comments. Definitely looking for a set of those. And that'll be the only brake upgrades I do. The rest I'll leave stock. These look like they'd come off of a Dodge Dakota. They're really tiny. They're actually off of a Lotus Elise. They're Brembo brakes. But these have the e-brake built into the caliper. And there's some big brake kits you can order from StopTech. It says, much improved braking performance. However, in the fine print, it says, you lose your e-brake. No, I'm not going to lose my e-brake. If I park on a hill or something, I need to be able to park the thing. So I'm just going to upgrade these to the 40mm. If you guys know anyone that can still do them or has a set of them, I'll be happy to buy them. So you wondered why the wheels are off the car, all 4 of them. Really, I haven't had to take them all off. But these things are meaty. They're huge. They're heavy too. Ugh. Look at the section width on that, guys. It's like a foot. I'm going to be etching these with etching primer. I'm going to recoat them with an aluminum color and make it look like nice, clean aluminum wheels. As you see that one over there, it looks brighter, like it's been etched. Something's wrong with the wheels. They're not scuffed or destroyed.
I think he's dancing up there.
I think he's doing jumping jacks.
Jumping jacks, that's a good idea.
Wow. Anyways, we'll get these painted up and look nice. These are Gen 3 wheels off of like a 2006 or something. So it has 19s in the rear, but 18s in the front. They're not the same all the way around. I do have the standard 3-blade wheels that came with this car, but I like these the best. I've got lots of compliments of people saying those are the wheels to have on a Gen 1. They look amazing. So I'll be using these. I contacted my tire guy. I said, hey, I got these 355 30 R19s and 295 35 R18s, which actually has 275s on it right now. They look a little narrow and a little short. I'm going to go to the 295s and give myself a tiny bit more clearance up front and a beefier looking tire. I said, hey, I need these sets. Give me some Michelins. And my tire guy said, nah, Michelin doesn't make the big ones anymore. I said, all right, let's try Pirelli. He called me back. Nope, they don't make them anymore either. I said, all right, what about BF Goodrich? Nope. So I said, what do I do? He said, there's only one company that he knew of that still made this 355 tire. That's Continental. They're called Pro Contact or something like that, Continentals. And they're like $500 or $600 per tire. And I said, well, it doesn't sound like I have much of a choice, do I? He said, no, not really. So I said, well, bring me a set in. So those will be coming in soon. New tires, which that's a huge thing on these Vipers. You get tires that are old, they turn into hard rubber, and then you get all this torque, and that's where you do fishtails into telephone poles. You always need to keep good new tires on your Viper. So that pretty much sums up everything I'm going to do. Let's get this thing back on the ground. So I've got this mostly back on the ground, and it looks like it's taking a big bite out of something. I don't have the hood all the way closed. But I'm not going to super modify this thing and put superchargers on it and do all kind of crazy stuff to it. I'm just going to add some mild exhaust, upgrade the brakes a little bit, improve the wheels, some new tires, and just make it look nice and clean and presentable. Again, it does have salvage history. It's been rebuilt or rebuilt title because of some frame damage that was repaired. But I got it for 35 grand, and I really think I got a pretty good deal on it. And it only has 21,000 miles on it. Very low miles. So it's got a lot of life left in it, and we're going to enjoy this car for a while. If you're curious what kind of tools I've used or I'm going to use on this car or any car in this shop, check my Amazon affiliates in the description below. There's a link for you to check out all the tools I use in the shop. Really, they're for sale there. We get a small cut, and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because we got bus videos, some cars that showed up just recently, a whole bunch of videos to come for you guys. Thanks for watching.